I planned the most romantic anniversary dinner of my life. She never showed up. When I went home early and found her iPad unlocked on the couch, I wish I had just stayed at that restaurant alone and never touched it. What I found inside ended 6 years in about 45 minutes. Long post. I know. But I need to get this out of my body because it has been sitting in my chest like a stone for 3 weeks and I haven't told anyone in my life the full version of what happened. Not my brother. Not my best friend. Nobody. I need strangers to read this because I think if someone who knows me heard it, the look on their face would make it too real. So here we are. I'm going to tell this slowly, the way it actually happened, because I think that matters. I think the pace of it matters. This wasn't a sudden explosion. It was more like standing in a room and watching the walls quietly pull away from the ceiling, 1 millimeter at a time, until you realize you're not standing in a room at all. You're just standing outside in the cold, and you've been outside for a while, you just didn't know it yet. Her name is Maya. We were together for 6 years and 3 months. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party when I was 26. She was standing in the kitchen arguing with someone about whether a hot dog was a sandwich, and she was absolutely certain she was right, and the confidence of it made me laugh out loud from across the room. She turned and looked at me, and that was that. That was 6 years ago. I want you to understand something before I keep going. I was not a man who doubted this relationship. I am not writing this as someone who had been suspicious for months and finally got confirmation. I was genuinely, embarrassingly content. We had moved in together after 14 months. We had a dog, a 4-year-old golden retriever named Biscuit, who slept between us every night and snored like a freight train. We had inside jokes that had evolved so many layers deep that neither of us could fully explain them to outsiders anymore. We had a shared notes app where we kept a running list of restaurants we wanted to try, movies we hadn't seen yet, and little weekend trip ideas. The list was long. We were always adding to it. I thought that meant something. I thought a long list meant a long future. Our 6-year anniversary was on a Thursday in April. I had been planning it for about 6 weeks. I know that sounds like a lot of lead time for a dinner reservation, but I wanted to do it right. We had talked early in our relationship about this restaurant downtown. A small Italian place, maybe 15 tables, the kind of place where the owner comes out and talks to you like you're at his house. We had driven past it once on a rainy night about 5 years ago, and she had pressed her face against the car window like a kid looking at a toy store and said, "One day, for something special." I remembered that. I had always remembered that. I called ahead and explained it was our anniversary. I asked if they could do something small with the table. Nothing over the top, just a candle, maybe a card. The woman on the phone was genuinely lovely about it. She said they'd take care of it. I ordered flowers to be delivered to our apartment that morning so she'd come home from work to them. I arranged to leave work 2 hours early so I could shower and change before she got home. I had her gift in a bag in the back of my closet. A small gold bracelet with a little charm on it, a dog paw because of Biscuit. I had been looking at it for 2 months before I finally bought it. I want you to understand the specific texture of that day before it fell apart because I think it matters. I left work at 3:30. I stopped and picked up a bottle of wine. Not expensive, but one she specifically liked, a Montepulciano she'd introduced me to a couple of years back. I got home. Biscuit went absolutely insane at the door the way he always did, like I had been gone for decades rather than 8 hours. The flowers had arrived. They were on the kitchen counter in a vase the delivery person must have found under the sink. She must have a key, or maybe she left it with a neighbor. I don't fully know how that part worked, but they were there and they looked good, orange and white and yellow, the kind of flowers that look like they belong in a sunny room. I showered. I put on the gray dress shirt she once told me made me look like I had my life together. I set the gift bag on the bed with a handwritten card. I fed Biscuit, topped off his water, and sat on the couch with a glass of wine and my phone at 5 o'clock, ready to greet her when she walked in. Our reservation was at 7:30. She was usually home by 5:45, 6 at the latest. At 6:15 I texted her, "Hey, flowers made it. You almost home? Reservation is at 7:30, smiley face." A reasonable text. Cheerful. No alarm in it. She didn't respond by 6:45. I called at 7. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I left a message that I'm now almost embarrassed to remember. I said something like, "Hey, it's me, just checking in. Hope everything's okay. I know you might be stuck in traffic or whatever. Call me back when you can. Reservation is at 7:30, but I can probably push it a little if we need to." I did push it. I called the restaurant at 7:20 and asked if they could hold the table until 8. The same woman I had spoken with weeks before answered. She said of course. She sounded kind about it. I sat on the couch until 7:50. Biscuit put his head in my lap at some point, which is the thing he does when he senses something is off. I scratched his ears and told him everything was fine, which is a thing I clearly needed to say out loud to someone, even if that someone was a dog. At 8 o'clock I texted again, "Hey, I'm getting a little worried. Please let me know you're okay." At 8:15 she replied. The text said, "I'm so sorry. I got caught up with something and I completely lost track of time. I'm so sorry. Can we reschedule the dinner? I'll make it up to you, I promise." I stared at that text for a long time. Caught up with something. I typed back, "Are you okay? Where are you?" She said, "I'm fine. It's complicated. I'll explain when I'm home. I'm so sorry about tonight." I called the restaurant and canceled the reservation. The woman on the phone was gracious. She said they hoped we'd rebook. I thanked her. I hung up. I took off the gray shirt and hung it back in the closet. I put the gift bag in the drawer of my nightstand instead of the bed because I didn't want to look at it. I poured the wine down the sink, which felt dramatic but felt right. I fed myself leftover pasta standing over the kitchen counter, still in my dress trousers, not hungry, eating anyway because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. She came home at 10:40. I want to describe the specific way she came through the door. She came in quietly. That was the first thing. Maya was not a quiet person. She was someone who announced herself. Bag dropped loudly, shoes kicked off, voice preceding her into whatever room I was in. "I'm home. The world is exhausting. Tell me something good." That was her thing. 6 years of it. But that night she came in like someone trying not to wake a sleeping house. She found me on the couch watching nothing, a show I had turned on just to have sound in the room. She sat next to me, not close, at the other end of the couch. She said she was sorry. She said it several times. She said she had lost track of time, that she had been dealing with something personal, that it wasn't an excuse, just an explanation. I asked her what it was. She said it was something she'd tell me about properly later, when she'd had some sleep. She looked tired. She looked like someone who had been holding a specific expression in place for a long time and was only now letting the muscles rest. I looked at her for a moment and I said okay. Because what else do you say at 11 at night to the person you've lived with for 5 years when they look like that? You say okay. You give them the night. You go to bed with a low hum of unease in your sternum and you tell yourself it'll make more sense in the morning. Biscuit slept between us. I lay on my side facing the wall for a long time before I fell asleep. She was gone when I woke up, left for work early. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "Coffee's made. I really am sorry about last night. Let's do the dinner this weekend. I love you." I poured the coffee. I read the note 3 or 4 times. I went to work. She texted throughout the day. Normal texts. An observation about a coworker. A meme she thought I'd like. A question about whether we needed more dish soap. Normal relationship textures. The kind of back and forth that is so mundane it becomes invisible, like breathing, until suddenly you're aware of it and you can't stop noticing each breath. That night was normal. We made dinner together. We talked about her day and my day. She didn't bring up what had happened. I didn't push. We watched something on television. She fell asleep on the couch around 9:30, which she sometimes did. I covered her with the throw blanket and went to read in the bedroom. The next 2 days were like that. Present, warm, slightly surface level. I kept waiting for her to explain. She kept not explaining. And I kept telling myself it was nothing, that I was being oversensitive, that people have complicated things come up. That 6 years of evidence told me this was not the kind of relationship where things got hidden. I was wrong. It was a Saturday morning, 4 days after the anniversary. She had gone out for a run. She went most Saturday mornings, usually an hour, sometimes 90 minutes. Biscuit was in the garden. I was in the kitchen with coffee and my phone, doing nothing in particular, when I walked into the living room and saw her iPad on the couch. I want to be careful here about how I describe what happened next, because I've thought about it a lot. I was not snooping. I want to say that clearly, not to defend myself to strangers on the internet, but because it actually matters to how I understand my own role in what came next. I was not a suspicious partner looking for something. I walked into the living room, saw the iPad on the couch, and picked it up with the intention of moving it to the coffee table so I could sit down. The screen was on. It had not locked yet. The screen had not timed out. The reason I know this is because when I picked it up and the screen faced me, I was looking directly at an open conversation. It took me a second to understand what I was seeing. The conversation was in WhatsApp. The contact name at the top was a nickname I recognized because I had heard it before years ago early in our relationship in the context of her telling me about someone she used to date. Someone she'd been with for 2 years before we met. A name she had mentioned maybe twice across the entire 6 years we were together, both times in passing, both times in a way that felt completely resolved. He was still in her phone, under that nickname, and they were talking. I stood in the middle of my living room holding her iPad and I read the conversation. I'm going to describe it without quoting it directly, because even now, weeks later, reading those words back in my own head does something to my breathing that I don't fully trust. The conversation went back months. That was the first thing that hit me. Not a recent slip, not a one-off message. Months. A whole winter of messages. Most of it was, on its surface, seemingly ordinary. How are you? How's life? Updates about work and general life texture. The kind of conversation that, if you squinted, you could almost convince yourself was just two old friends staying in a loose orbit. But then there were the other parts. There were messages where the tone shifted entirely. Where they were speaking to each other with a specific softness, a specific intimacy, that has no benign interpretation. Messages where he said he missed her. Messages where she said she'd been thinking about him. Messages about a specific evening 4 weeks earlier where she had told me she was at her colleague's birthday drinks. Messages about how complicated everything felt. Messages where he asked her when she was going to tell me, and she said she wasn't ready yet, and he said he understood but that he couldn't keep doing this, and she said she knew she just needed more time. And then there were the messages from Thursday, from the night of our anniversary, where she had been with him. I sat down on the couch. I don't remember deciding to sit. I think my legs just made that decision independently. Biscuit came in from the garden at some point and sat at my feet and looked up at me. I put the iPad face down on the cushion next to me and I sat very still for a while. The thing that I keep coming back to, that I cannot seem to move past even now, is not the betrayal in the abstract. It is the specific details of the timeline. It is the knowledge that while I was on the phone with a restaurant, cheerfully moving a reservation, she was with him. While I was standing in my kitchen eating cold pasta in dress trousers, she was with him. While she was sitting at the other end of the couch from me, looking tired, saying she'd explain later, she had already decided there were things she was never going to explain. The flowers were on the counter. The gift was in the nightstand. And she sat at the other end of the couch and said it's complicated and went to bed. I sat on that couch until I heard her key in the lock. She came in flushed from the run, earbuds in, a good mood on her face, the specific uncomplicated energy of someone who has just exercised and hasn't yet encountered the day's complications. She pulled out one earbud and said something to me, something light. I don't remember what it was. I looked at her. I said, I picked up your iPad to move it and the screen was on, and I watched her face do something I had never seen it do before. It did not go defensive. It did not go angry. It went very, very still. Like every voluntary muscle in it just quietly stopped cooperating. She looked at the iPad on the couch next to me. She looked at me. She sat down in the armchair across from me. Not the couch, the separate chair, and she put her face in her hands. I won't go through the whole conversation. It lasted a long time. There was crying, hers, eventually mine too, though I didn't expect that. I thought I was too numb for it, and then suddenly I wasn't. There was an explanation that I had not been prepared for. It hadn't been purely physical. She said it was more complicated than that, which I understood was meant to be contextual information but which landed, honestly, as worse. She said she had not meant for it to happen. She said it had started as occasional messages and she had told herself it was nothing, and then it had become something, and by the time she understood what it had become she was already too far into it to see the whole shape of it clearly. I asked her when she had planned to tell me. She didn't answer that for a long time. She said she didn't know. I said, "Were you planning to tell me at all?" She said she didn't know. I got up and took Biscuit for a walk. I walked for about 2 hours. Not for any particular reason, not toward anything. Biscuit was thrilled. He had no context for the situation and treated the unexpected long walk as pure gift, which I was grateful for. He kept looking up at me with this expression of uncomplicated happiness. Trotting alongside me while I moved through streets I wasn't really seeing, turning corners without choosing them. I thought about the shared notes app, the long list of places we hadn't been to yet, the weekend trips we talked about, a train trip up the coast we had been vaguely planning for the autumn. All those future-shaped things that had been sitting in my imagination as certainties. Here is something I have learned about this kind of thing that I could not have told you a month ago. The grief does not arrive in one clean wave. That would almost be easier. Instead, it arrives in specific, targeted moments, hitting specific memories. You'll be completely functional and then you'll remember one small thing. A joke, a morning, a completely ordinary Tuesday, and the meaning of that memory has changed now, and the new meaning hits you sideways. I remembered a weekend last autumn when we drove up to the mountains and the weather turned bad, and we ended up spending the whole Saturday in a small rented cabin watching old movies and eating crackers and cheese and laughing a lot. The specific, easy laughter of people who are comfortable enough with each other to be happy doing nothing. I had thought about that weekend a lot. I had thought of it as a small, perfect thing. Now I was trying to figure out the timeline and I was doing arithmetic in my head that I did not want to be doing, and the small, perfect thing had a different quality to it now. Not destroyed exactly, but changed. Complicated. That's the thing nobody tells you. It's not just the present that you lose. You have to go back through the whole archive. She was still in the apartment when I got back. I had half expected her not to be. I had told myself on the walk that I didn't know what I wanted, her gone, or her there, or some third thing. But she was there, sitting in the kitchen with a cup of cold tea, and Biscuit went to her immediately, because Biscuit has no complicated feelings about anyone, and she buried her face in his neck for a moment. We talked more. Quieter this time. No more crying. Just the flat, exhausted language of two people trying to be honest at the end of something. I told her I needed her to give me some space. I asked if she could stay with her sister for a few nights. She said yes. She packed a bag. It didn't take as long as I thought it would, and I don't know what I expected, but the speed of the bag packing sat with me in a way I'm still processing. At the door she stopped. She said, "I'm sorry. I know that's almost nothing right now, but I don't have anything else." I said, "I know." The door closed. It's been 3 weeks. I have not been dramatic about the aftermath. I haven't told people. I haven't subposted or made gestures. I've gone to work and come home and taken Biscuit on his walks and cooked dinner and slept on my side of a bed that is now just my side of a bed without even a warm border on the other side of it anymore. We have spoken several times. Practical things mostly. She still has things here, I still have things at her sister's place. We haven't had the conversation yet about what comes next, the formal version of it, and I've been told by the part of my brain that handles self-protection that I'm not ready for that conversation yet, and I've chosen to listen to that. She sent me a long message 11 days ago. She said she had started seeing a therapist. She said she understood if I never forgave her, but she wanted me to know that the year leading up to what happened had been a difficult period for her internally, that she had been struggling with things she hadn't found a way to voice, and that this wasn't an excuse but it was context she thought I deserved to have. She said she had hurt herself too in the doing of it, which I read several times and still don't fully know what to do with. I haven't responded to that message yet. I've written responses, deleted them, written different ones, deleted those too. I still have the bracelet in my nightstand drawer, the little gold one with the paw charm. I don't know what to do with it. I can't give it to her. I can't look at it for very long. But every time I think about getting rid of it, I can't do that either. Biscuit is still sleeping in the middle of the bed, which is the one part of the current arrangement that I am entirely at peace with. He has not adjusted his behavior even slightly in response to recent events, which I consider to be both very on brand for him and also profoundly correct. He is the best thing in this apartment right now and he knows it. I don't know what I want out of posting this. I think I wanted to account for the whole shape of it. I think there is something that happens when you keep a thing entirely inside yourself. It starts to take on a strange compressed quality. Like it can't breathe, like the details start blurring and collapsing under the pressure of being unspoken. Writing it out like this, even to strangers, gives it room. The dinner reservation I never made it to. The flowers someone put in a vase for me. The card I wrote by hand and left on the bed. The gray shirt in the closet. The cold pasta at the kitchen counter. The 3 hours I sat on that couch before she came home from her run. Not moving, not calling anyone. Just sitting with the knowledge that the walls had already pulled away from the ceiling a long time ago. Probably. And this was just the morning I happened to see it clearly. 6 years and 3 months. A long list of places we hadn't been yet. I'm okay. I want to end with that because it's true and because I think it needs to be said. Not fine, the performative kind. But okay. The genuine kind. I got up this morning. I made coffee. I took Biscuit to the park and he chased a pigeon for about 15 seconds with the full conviction that this time he would catch it. And he did not catch it and he circled back to me looking proud anyway and I laughed. A real one. Unprompted. That's something. That's enough for a Saturday morning. Edit. I wasn't expecting this many responses. Thank you, sincerely. I've read every comment. I'm not going to reply to most of them, but I read all of them and it helped. That's the only word I have for it. It helped.